Hello friend, and welcome to this video where we're going to talk about the benefits of not ejaculating for 30 days, why you might want to try this practice, and what you can expect if you're going into a NoFap or semen retention journey over a course of 30 days, broken down week by week from the moment of ejaculation. Because your benefits are going to shift, and the things that you're going to need to do to harness and integrate this extra sexual energy into your body are going to shift too, depending on where you are in these 30 days. And so I do want to say right up front before getting into it that I think this is an incredibly powerful practice that every guy should do at least once in his life. Every guy should go for 30 days without ejaculating just to literally feel in your body the benefits of this practice, the impact that this can have on your life and your cognition and your presence. The benefits of this practice are real, they're legit, and this is why all over the internet right now we're seeing NoFap and semen retention articles and videos and testimonials just explode all over the place. And this is awesome because we need to be talking about this as guys. And so if you're going to go 30 days without ejaculating, there are two main strategies that you're probably thinking about using. One of them is NoFap, right? And NoFap is basically where you're saying no to masturbation, no to sex, no to sexuality in general. And you're just tabling this part of your life to focus on every other aspect of your life. And that's great and it's valuable, and a ton of people have incredible benefits from doing NoFap. The way that I'm talking about today, what I personally practice and what I teach people is semen retention. And this is a little different from NoFap in my opinion. Semen retention is kind of like modern day Tantra or Taoist sexuality. And if you think about those traditions, they see sexual energy as this really powerful life force that lives within your body that is generative. And instead of pushing sexuality away, they say, no, embrace your sexuality. Love your sexuality, have sex, masturbate, just don't ejaculate all over the place. Instead of mindless ejaculations, bring that energy up, integrate it into your body. So all that being said, now that we've framed this whole 30-day period, let's get into it from ground zero, from the moment of ejaculation. So let's say that you do ejaculate. What physiologically happens? How does this set the stage for the rest of these 30 days? When you ejaculate, you're telling your body basically mission complete. You have impregnated. I mean, hopefully you haven't impregnated somebody you didn't want to, but biologically, you're telling your system that you have completed your duty as a procreative being and you have impregnated something, right? This sends your system into a state where there's a rush of neurotransmitters and hormones that go through your brain and your body that say, relax, chill out. You know what I'm talking about, right? The refractory period. The refractory period happens after you have an ejaculatory orgasm. And interestingly, it's not just for the 20 minutes when you lose your erection. The refractory period actually lasts for days. And remember, this is your body saying, you've completed your mission, you can chill out. So really, this is not a phase of peak performance, right? The refractory period lasts for days, and it's not a space of peak performance in your life. And since the refractory period lasts for days, if you're somebody who's ejaculating 3 times a week, you are constantly staying in this state of non-peak performance. And this is the state a lot of guys get into, and I spent years of my life in. So it's, no shame at all, but like wake up and be aware of this, because this is really important. Ejaculation hangover is a state of just suppressed vitality, suppressed awareness, suppressed clarity. There's a lot of brain fog that can go on with that. There's confusion. There's not so much direction or motivation in life. And this is a state a lot of guys are in because just nobody talks about this, At least nobody used to talk about it. Thankfully, here we are having this conversation right now, and a bunch of other people are talking about it. But even still, this is a state a lot of guys find themselves in. And so it's really important to be aware of this, just aware of where we're starting from an ejaculatory orgasm. Let's move on to the first week, the first 7 days after you have an ejaculation. What happens during that time? The first thing that's going to happen after a few days of not ejaculating, if you've committed to going 30 days, you're going to come back to a state of homeostasis. Because think about this, when you have an ejaculatory orgasm, your system is like, comes down, And then you're in a lower state, you're not in a peak performance state, you're more relaxed, you're more chilled out. So eventually you're gonna come back up, you're gonna feel your vitality rise, you're gonna feel your mental clarity rise, you're going to feel you're gonna feel more fire in your body, you're gonna feel more motivation, and this is gonna happen over 2, 3, 4 days, coming back to this state of homeostasis. This is your baseline. You're getting out of recovery mode. You're getting out of the ejaculation hangover. And your energy is going to go up, your clarity is going to go up, your motivation is going to go up. And if you're going to do this practice, if you're going to do semen retention or NoFap, it's really important to do some form of practice to integrate this extra energy. Because if you're used to ejaculating multiple times a week and then you just stop, what's going to happen? You're gonna maybe blow, right? Or if you do a somatic practice like qigong or yoga or some forms of visualization mixed with movement, then you can actually integrate this energy into your system, like into your bones, in a way that's not going to feel like that. It's going to feel balanced. So instead of like getting all rigid and feeling like you're about to nut everywhere and ejaculate uncontrollably, these practices help you come into a space of ease, and they're incredibly important to do throughout this entire 30-day period. So in terms of what you might experience in your body in this first week, you might experience more tingles, more charge, and just a general feeling of aliveness. And if you're having sex with people during this time, if you're having sex with a partner, you'll probably notice that the first couple days after an ejaculatory orgasm, it's easier to control your ejaculation. And then later on in the week, it becomes more challenging because there is this, there's a buildup. So moving right along to the second week, this is a huge, huge, huge point for a lot of guys. I've done surveys of hundreds and hundreds of people, and most of the guys that complete my surveys say that they ejaculate multiple times a week. So I think it's a safe guess to say that most men out there are not ever even making it to this second week, right? Most men are just staying in this state week 1 or in the perpetual state of ejaculation hangover. So when you get into this second week, what's going to happen in the second week is you're going to start feeling pressure in your system. There's going to be an increase in charge, an increase in energy, an increase in vitality. And if you haven't been doing a practice like qigong or yoga to integrate this, it might feel uncomfortable. You might be agitated. You might feel just like a little on edge, and that's why it's really, really important, especially in the second week, to do practices to integrate this energy, qigong, yoga. And also in this week, unless you're really, really practiced with qigong and yoga, and even then, you're probably going to have to do some intensive physical exercise to land this energy in your body, because it's going to be a lot. So I recommend that people go do weight training in the gym, especially doing things like squats and lower body leg exercises to really get into that state. And also go for a run, do some form of intensive cardio where you get your heart rate up and you really just shake off some of that extra energy, because you're not going to be able to integrate it all. Some of it has to just be let go. Use your willpower to make yourself do those practices, and also use your willpower to rein in any desires that you have that come up around ejaculating, because this pressure is going to make you want to release this energy. And the strategy that most of us have been taught and most of us use when we feel this pressurized sexual energy is to ejaculate. Maybe that's looking at porn, maybe that's having sex, maybe that's just masturbating and getting off. But we have to use our willpower to remember that we're doing a practice of semen retention or NoFap, and we're not ejaculating. Stick to that. Use your willpower. And in Tantra and Taoist sexuality, they see willpower as an incredibly powerful force. Like one of the strongest forces in nature. And even in the Think and Grow Rich book by Napoleon Hill, he talks about willpower as being the single thing that makes anything happen in life. In that book, Napoleon Hill talks about how some of the most successful men of all time have figured out how to harness their sexual energy and then used their willpower to direct that into anything that they want. Really, really powerful practice. So one of the main benefits that you'll probably feel in week 2 is you're going to start radiating You're going to start radiating as a person. So what does this mean? This means when you go out in public, people are going to find you more attractive. And it's not just sexually attractive that I'm talking about. I'm talking about also in potential business situations, potential creative partnerships. Like, you're going to be a more attractive person because you're not just letting your energy go mindlessly, because you're bringing it back in. You might walk a little bit taller, your shoulders might be a little bit more back, and people are going to feel that. You're going to have a different presence to you. There's going to be a different glimmer in your eyes, and people are not going to be able to identify what exactly that is, but they're going to feel it and they're going to be drawn to that. And that really starts to happen in this second week. It's beautiful, it's magical. And any of you watching right now who have tried this, like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. And so if you are practicing semen retention and you are practicing having sex with a partner during this time, it takes a serious commitment and willpower to not ejaculate, generally speaking, during the second week, because the pressure is on, right? The stove is hot, the pressure is high, and you just got to keep yourself in check. So I recommend that guys stay as far away from the point of no return during sex as possible, just so they don't give in to that temptation. Moving on to week 3, you're going to get some really incredible benefits that are going to start happening in your system on week 3. If you have been doing your practices to integrate this extra energy and charge into your system, you're going to start feeling really powerful. There's going to be a deepening sense of power, and not like power over, something like that, but like a power that emanates. It's a presence, it's a depth of being, and it anchors all this stuff. Like, you'll feel it get deep into the core of your bones and your cells. It's incredible. And what happens there is there's a shift in your presence, generally speaking, around this third week, because you're not in this cycle of ejaculate, ejaculate, ejaculate. You're normalizing, you're getting more into a higher state consistently. And this presence, there's a depth to it, and you're going to notice that you're going to start feeling alignment with your life purpose and your life vision more fully than maybe you ever have before. I know that whenever I do this practice of going 30 days without ejaculating, usually for me, around this period is when I start to feel somatically in my body, I feel like I'm imbibed with my purpose. And whatever I do, whenever I'm walking around or creating, I feel like I'm guided by that purpose. It's really incredible. And this is not just because you're not ejaculating, but it's because as part of a healthy and integrative semen retention practice, you're also identifying all the areas of your life where you're leaking your sexual energy and your life force energy. That could be through excess drinking, excess smoking, through staying up late watching Netflix, to eating a shit ton of sugar, right? So we're cutting all that out, and doing that in addition to harnessing our sexual energy. It's going to change something fundamentally internally, and that change usually lands around this week, usually starts to land. And some amazing psychosocial benefits that happen from this are that if you have been used to, if you're used to looking at porn and ejaculating regularly, you're going to start noticing that the way you perceive other people is going to be different. Your perception of the sex that you're attracted to is going to change. You're no longer going to see them as much as sex objects, but as people and as beings. And this is going to pave the way for so much of a different quality of interaction with them that it's powerful. People can feel that. I know I keep saying that, but you just gotta try it. You just gotta try it. And sex actually gets easier for a lot of guys in this third week, because again, their system is realizing that ejaculation isn't the goal of sex. What is the goal is actually pleasure and energy. And ironically, this is the thing that's going to allow you to get into this state of multiple non-ejaculatory orgasms, the tantric orgasms, all that stuff that's seen as like the holy grail of sexuality for men in terms of, tantric stuff, right? It is seeing pleasure as the goal and not ejaculation as the goal. And so that's a whole other topic for about 20 other videos, but just wanted to throw that little bit in there. And when you make it to the end of this month, if you've been doing practices to integrate all this energy, you're going to start to feel sovereign. You're going to have a deep sense of sovereignty in your body. And what does that mean? That means feeling self-full. not needing anything else externally. You do recognize your interdependence, but you don't need something from somebody. You don't need sex from that person. You don't need sex from that person. You don't need alcohol. You don't need this. You don't need sugar. You don't need this movie. You can choose to do any of these things, but there's a feeling of sovereign completeness that starts to come in later in this phase, or in these 30 days. That's really incredible. And along with that is this easeful power that I've been referencing. And I want you to think about, imagine a king. Imagine a king sitting on his throne, right? A king sitting on his throne is not going to be like, I got this, it's going to work, I just got to hold it together. No, a king on his throne is, he's sitting there relaxed in his easeful power, ready to take decisive action if he needs to, but he's relaxed. This starts to take over, and you get into a new phase of homeostasis, a new kind of homeostasis in your body that's fundamentally different from this homeostasis that you're coming to out of ejaculation hangover. This homeostasis at the end of these 30 days is fundamentally different, and it's a higher state of being. Well, higher. It's a different state of being where you're more clear, you're more perceptive, you're more sensitive, you're more driven, you're more motivated. Like, this list of things that are heightened is long, you know, and this becomes your baseline. It's amazing. And you start to have, this is the last piece I'll say is that you start to have this embodied presence. At least I did, and a number of other guys I've talked to start to have this, is that you'll notice that your center of consciousness actually seems to expand from your brain down to include your throat and your heart and your belly and your genitals. And so your center of awareness is actually bigger. I know that might sound a little esoteric, but it actually, you actually feel that. Like, I can actually feel that internally when I'm really tapped into these practices and when I'm really doing this work. It's like, my perception and my ability to connect with things is greater, and my ability to process and be aware of everything is located in more than just here. It's my whole body. It's embodied presence. It's magic. Those are some things you can expect over 30 days of not ejaculating. And if you go beyond 30 days without ejaculating, a lot of guys actually say that their benefits start to plateau, and they don't have this same like increase in all of these clarity, motivation, energy, power that happens in these 30 days. They start to plateau, and they wonder if they're doing something wrong. And I just want to throw this last little piece in there, that Taoist sexuality, which I really resonate with, has the philosophy that there is an ideal ejaculation frequency for every man out there. And that means for you, there's a certain amount of days that would be ideal for your system to go in between ejaculation. And only you can figure that out. In Taoist sexuality, they say that they have different formulas based on your age and the seasons and all this stuff. But I'm a fan of clearing the pipes. I'm a fan of letting the energy go and recirculating. And I personally find that my ideal frequency is about 14 days. I do every once in a while, I do this practice of going 30 days just to get more in tune with these energies. And I find that the more times I do a 30-day practice, the more this becomes my baseline. And all these benefits from the last bit in the third week, like, they come down into this area. It becomes more of my homeostasis, and I'm able to ejaculate once every 14 days and still feel all this stuff, because I've done this 30-day stretch many times now in my life. And I do like ejaculating. I think it's hot. I think it's sexy, and I love it. And I love the release that comes from that. It's really beautiful. I just think it's super, super important to do it only with intention, and to do it being mindful of everything that I just talked about and all the implications of what can happen when you have an ejaculation. I highly encourage you to do an experiment going through 30 days without ejaculating. Again, I have a free 7-day course that you can do. I'll link to that beneath the video. And also, I have a 21-day semen retention course if you want to really deep dive into this stuff. If you have any questions or thoughts or comments, or if you disagree with anything, please leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Please share this video with anybody who you think would benefit from it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for going through all this. I think it's a really important conversation that we need to be having as humans, but primarily as men. We need to be aware that our sexual response system impacts our entire life, and it's not just isolated in our genitals, and there's incredible power there. So that's it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you next time. Cheers.